Hey guys, Jilly here. So I'm going to be answering a few questions that I've gotten from a few of you guys. This subject is on water and trauma, and this goes so deep. So it's my intention to explain the connections to the concepts of emotions and trauma and feelings and bridge that with the physical, scientific world of our health in our bodies and our physical. So, what is trauma? Why are people even talking about it? Well, trauma is when something happens to you. You know, whether it be a boyfriend breaking up with you, it could be a teacher speaking down to you, it could be a parent emotionally abusing you, it could be a traumatic experience like getting left out on the football field and not getting picked in sports, or it could be a little trauma like, your friends talking bad about you. Whatever the trauma is, they range, and those are very lighter traumas. And then we could go deeper to the traumas of your dad dying or your mom getting sick, or something like a sexual trauma or sexual abuse or something very physically abusive. So traumas vary in intensity, but they all affect your body. A lot of us don't realize that there is actually some traumas in our programming of our society that actually perpetuate trauma being handed down in generations and generations. Certain traditions are very traumatic, and so when you start to realize that trauma can go back to as early as childbirth, we start to kind of view it differently. So, how do you know if you have a trauma? Well, if you guys ever get anxiety, depressed, if you ever notice you have blockages in your abundance, what you're manifesting on the outside is usually happening on the inside. So whether it be like for me, I know we had a trauma with money in my family. I didn't come from a lot of money. And it was always hard for me to break past the abundance blockages that I know I had in my family, but I didn't quite understand what they were and why I wasn't breaking past them. So that's a trauma as well. So when you start to realize that traumas can actually be holding you back, what is happening on a physical level? Traumas get stored in the body, okay? So your whole body has trauma stored in it. If you've done some work on yourself and gone through your whole traumas and dug deep and worked on yourself. Now this isn't specifically for you, but traumas are always changing. So I'm just explaining this on a bigger level. So the traumas are stored in our bodies. Now, your body is water. It's 75% water, and water has memory. Okay, so if something happens to you, that trauma gets stored in your body. Okay, so based on the emotional reaction, it actually changes the molecular structure of the water to be a perfect crystal or distortion. So different emotions have different vibrations, right? And so if you're feeling fear, if you're fearing doubt, if you're feeling like blockages in that way of anxiety and those lower frequency emotions, that lower vibration is going to distort the water molecule. And Dr. Masaru Emoto was proving this. And so what he found was that things like neglect actually distorted the water molecule way more than speaking love, speaking joy, being around joyful situations actually created a perfect crystal in your body. So the distorted water actually mutates in your body and it can create little bundles. And so this is where we're starting to bridge the emotional and physical, right? And so let's take this a little bit deeper, where the water in your body is holding the trauma, okay? And the muscles and the colon and the kidneys and the brain and the lungs, everything in your body is made up of water. I'm serious, if you look it up, everything is made up of water, and everything that we know about water holds information. It holds memory. So our bodies are like recording our entire lives. And it can even go back into past lives. So when you start to understand this on a more, quantum level, you go, whoa, what traumas are inside of me? Feel the waters in your body. Do you feel any blockages? Because what happens is when these traumas are stored in your body, the distortion of the water happens and your nervous system reacts, and these little bundles start creating in your nervous system of blockages. And this could be a blocked chakra, it could be PTSD in your brain. The subconscious mind is very important to understand, because the subconscious mind is what holds the trauma in a neurological perspective. Okay, so the subconscious mind holds the trauma, and it actually affects the way you process emotions through the amygdala. And so the more trauma that your subconscious mind is holding, it's going to create blockages like PTSD. So that's what happened for me, is that I had blockages. I had PTSD because I had sexual trauma when I was 1.5 that I never knew about. So if you guys have ever heard of repressed memories, literally I had no idea. I was 27 when I actually woke up to the repressed memories, and it was like night and day. It was like a switch just turned on. And when that happened to me, I realized how much trauma I had in me. And I had like little signs of PTSD, like ADHD, concentration problems, memory problems, intimacy blockages, a little bit of sensory stuff. So noticing how that trauma relates to our bodies. Epigenetics is a new field of science. I wouldn't even really say new, but in the Western world, it's new. It's a very ancient science, to me at least. And it's proving that fear can be handed down in your DNA, because when you fear something, you have a molecular change in your body, and that distorts the DNA. Now, the DNA is held together by water molecules. This is what Nassim Haramein says. He's a very quantum physicist, and he goes pretty deep, but explaining that the water molecules control the expression of your DNA. Now, epigenetics proves that we have dormant DNA. When you go through trauma, it turns off your DNA, causing it to be dormant. And doctors and society will tell you that it's just junk DNA. Well, it's not. It's just asleep. So we get to wake up our DNA again by healing the trauma and transmuting it. But it all has to do with the water system in your body, because if the trauma is there, the waters hold it. And the waters actually manifest into the blockages in the body. And those blockages, they can manifest as tumors, they can manifest as cancer, they can manifest as ailments. They're very, very deep. And so when you're working with water, you're working with the 13th layer or 11th layer. I'm not really sure which one I want to call it yet, but it's just deep, it's really deep. And so working with your body and the trauma that's stored in your body is really important to understand in healing. So a lot of people use plant medicines, they'll use psychotherapy, they'll use many different therapies and energy healing, because healing the body is so important in healing trauma. We can't bypass the body. It always comes up. And what happens is that the more toxins you have in your body and the less hydrated you are, the more the trauma actually gets held. Your system basically gets stuck in a sympathetic nervous system for fight or flight, because when you're experiencing trauma, that's what turns on the sympathetic nervous system. And you'll notice that you have this little underlying anxiety, or you can't stop, or maybe you have trouble with meditation in a way that you're like, I can't even meditate because I can't even sit still. That's what ADHD is. So ADHD has a root of trauma, and this is a theory that I got from Dr. Gabor Mate, and also a theory that I felt in myself because I had pretty bad concentration issues before I started healing my own trauma. So going back to the water in the body, everything is made up of water, right? And so when people do pranic healing, when they do energy healing, emotion can get stored in your colon. I had constipation issues. I had, when I started diving into this, I started tuning into all the little parts of my body, and I kind of started getting to see where trauma was stored. So to understand that what you're eating and drinking and what's in your atmosphere is causing more toxins in your body. The more toxins you have in your body, the more fat your body will hold on to. This could be manifested in different ways, ailments, cysts, whatever they might be. But the more toxins you have, the more that your body has hard time letting go of the trauma. Because the more toxins, it distorts the water molecule. It's like this, right? Distorts it. Instead of a perfect crystal. The perfect crystal helps information flow through it so you can let go of it. So that's why creating structured water in the body is so crucial for healing. Because we are sacred geometry. Let's be real. Like, I am a sacred geometric pattern, and I have beautiful images and crystals all over my body. Whatever a crystal can do, I can do. This is the power of the human body. But because it's distorted, it's harder for us to let go of the energetic imprints that are literally imprinted in our DNA, and it distorts the DNA. So when we're letting go of trauma, it's some deep work. Like, have you guys ever like felt in your body what it feels like when you're going through a healing and you're like even if it's like something that you think is like material, like money. I went through my own abundance blockages. I realized that I had a money blueprint, meaning that like I had a really bad perspective on money a few years ago, and I felt it in my body. I like felt it, and I was just like, ooh, this feels weird. Like it was like it was distorted in a way. And it's hard to explain it, but you just feel a resistance. And so as I started cleaning my vessel, it became easier and easier to let go of trauma, to let it just slide out of you. Because we are vessels, okay? We are channels of information that can flow through us. Source can flow through us, and water is the antenna to source. So when you block that, it's really hard with human traumas and whatnot. It's really hard for that source to flow through. So it's all interconnected, and as we start to understand water, we start to understand our own bodies. And everything water can do, we can do. Everything crystals can do, we can do. Everything a computer can do, we can do. We can absorb information. We can emit information. We can heal others with our vibrations, with our frequencies, based on the structure which creates the property. Based on the structure of crystal, it creates a property, right? So it's important to recognize that your DNA is affected by the environment. By the environment, meaning what's the environment in your body? How's the water in your body? Is it structured or is it distorted? Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you drinking alcohol? Are you eating bad? Are you speaking bad to yourself? Is somebody else speaking bad to you in your life? You start to kind of see it as like, wow, like this is everything. So if we could just simply understand water, think about how many different topics we could cover on healing, because water is everything. And that's why the quote on my website is everything, and everything is water, because water is the ultimate bridge from the spiritual to the physical. Get rid of the metaphysical. Like, this is real science. Water proves it. Water can change physically. It's a tangible experience for people. So start to work with the waters in your body. Start to feel where you're at. Start to feel the anxiety. Start to open up to different ways of healing, and start to change what you're eating and drinking. The more structure you can create in your body, the more information can flow through you and flow out. Flow out. Let go, let go, let go. Let go. We are water beings, and our water was just completely distorted and taken from us, veered off its natural path. And this is us getting back onto that path. And I want to just mention a lot of these connections that I've gotten with water. I just started speaking out about this at more and more events, and I offer free water workshop nights, free water talks, because I'm here to transmit the spirit of water, and she loves when I talk about her. Like, every time I get the chills, she loves when I talk about the spirit of water, because we are water. And there are cultures that are worshiping water, because when you worship water, you worship yourself. And that's how I fell in love with myself, is I fell in love with water. and I healed the trauma that was in my water, and I healed the lineage, and I healed the ancestry, and I'm still healing it, you know, and it's a never ending road. But that's the thing, is like, once you get the foundation done, you become more of an enlightened being, meaning you become more light. And as you become more light, you're crystallizing yourself, your DNA, your physical vessel becomes more crystallized. So when you get to that level of understanding, you're like, wow, I did a lot of work, right? Like, I did it. Like, I healed my body and I let go of traumas. Now you know that if something comes into your environment that could be traumatic, you're like, wait a minute, I gotta process this. I gotta be in the moment and transmute. And that's my process now. So when I say the journey never ends, it doesn't end, but it gets better. You get better at dealing with it, and you get really good at manifesting. Meaning that if something happens, you're like, oh, I know why I manifested that, because I need to learn that lesson, right? You don't become a victim of your own reality. And it has everything to do with manifestation. So I hope that brings clarity to you guys. Thank you so much. If you want to reach out to me, join Jilly at gmail.com. I love you.